Fanny, Phanuel. You're a professional soccer player. And today I want to talk to you about your route and kind of start briefly about growing up, like your childhood, and just telling me how you grew up playing. And I know we met in high school, so you were playing in high school and then how it continued.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Democratic Republic of Congo. I came to the States as a refugee, and I've always enjoyed soccer. So in elementary school or even growing up, I always played with my older siblings. So then I think it was about the age of 12, 13 where I decided to take it a little more serious. And I was never very good at all, but I always was willing to work harder than most people. It was and then I got to high school and kind of continued my path of wanting to become a professional athlete. So then I decided to go to I got kind of fortunate to go to the academy. It was down in Casa Grande. We lived in a hotel in the middle of nowhere. All you do is play soccer, go to school, and that's it.
And for someone who's not familiar, are there a lot of academies out there?
Now there are. When I was playing, our academy was one of the newer academies coming out, and there weren't that many academy teams at the beginning. But we just do tournaments. There were there was ODP, there was region team, there was also the national team, and those were kind of the ranks that you went about it. But all of a sudden, there was the academy came about, and I was lucky and very fortunate to attend. And after that, I got a lot of opportunities to attend different universities, and then I decided to choose Clemson. And from Clemson, began after Clemson, graduated in 3.5 years, and then began my professional journey.
Okay. Talking about from being at the academy, and then how did it prepare you? I mean, it sounds like you already had it in your mind that you wanted to be professional, which sometimes some people aren't sure if they're good enough yet. So, what was your thought process while you were in the academy, and then once you chose Clemson? Um,
Mm.
how did you choose Clemson?
It was so the way I got into the academy for I was not very good at all, and even my mom would say like just quit soccer because I ended up starting. I was playing basketball at our high school, and then I was planning on my senior year playing football, but having to make that decision where you're leaving your family, you're going to a different state, and then not playing the sports that you were planning on playing your senior year is all exciting. So it took a lot of sacrifice. But once I got to the academy, I think we were put in an environment where it was pretty serious, where everyone there had one goal is to become a professional athlete, and it was not easy. There were a lot of sacrifices just because one, we never went out. We went out with in like a bus. If we needed to go to the grocery store, we pick the time, we all go, and then we come straight back. And the closest city I think was 30, 40 minutes away. So it was not easy. But then while playing there, I think everyone's ambitions grew just because of the environment. But then I got lucky while you're playing the academy. A lot of colleges, fortunately, go and watch academies nowadays. They don't go so much to the club teams and all that. So luckily, I decided to start looking at schools. And when I went to visit Clemson, I think I was just in love because it was very homey, and it gave me a home feel. Even though going from Arizona all the way to South Carolina was a big change, but I think I made the right decision.
You were making your decision, did academics play a part, or what? Because I want to also emphasize when I'm talking to athletes in particular that careers are limited. And so some people aren't thinking it's just a good soccer program or athletic program in general, but maybe not as academically strong, or whatever it is, vice versa. So did that play a factor as well?
It did. So I went on a visit to New Mexico. I went on a visit to College of Charleston, and I was after Clemson, I was going to go to Duke, and one of the biggest things that I was looking for is a good academic school, because later on in life, you never know. Having that on your resume, I think it's huge. So for me, it was very important. And me being one of the only people in my family to go to college, I think it was very important. And then obviously the soccer came into play. But even though while I was looking at schools, Duke was a lot better than Clemson. But I think the academic part of it, and knowing that if I get an opportunity, I'm going to this school and I'm going to luckily play as soon as I get there as a freshman. And most of the times you don't get that opportunity. So I think the academics came into play, and also obviously the soccer and being able to play once I get there.
And did you finish your degree?
I did. I did. I got
That
my
is
degree.
great news. Not everybody does that either. And having a talent can sometimes be another stepping stone for something else. And it allowed you the opportunity to go to school even and go to a great school. And then while you're still developing that talent, you're developing other ones. And so I think
Yeah,
it's great when you capitalize on those
you have to.
opportunities.
You definitely have to. And I think one of the nice things is most of the times when I speak to kids, I emphasize on how important it is to focus on your academics, because as an athlete, anything could happen and you could get injured or whatever. You have to also have a plan of what to do afterwards, what you can get into, or how can whatever you're studying at school academically help you in your future. So
It's a great point. I love that. Okay, so when you were nearing your end of collegiate soccer, do you get an agent? Did you need to start talking to teams? Do they come to you? What's that process like?
uh it was exciting because you, as a kid, this is all you've thought about, you've dreamt about. And there were agents, that's before the season even ends, there are agents who come in, speak to your coach, and then also reach out to you via Facebook, now even Instagram. So they're reaching out to you constantly. And there was one particular agent who, since my sophomore year, was he'd reach out, he'd come to some of the games. He was very I don't know, he just, the fact that he was always around and very interested in working with me, even at such a young age, it gave me the opportunity to be like, hey, I could trust this person, just just because he was very interested. And I, once I spoke to him and everything, it made it a lot more easier. So I got an agent, and then I think it was the day, 2 days before graduating, I actually got the call from, do I from a team, and then
You can say this, Gina. It's okay.
oh
Because
no,
people can Google you.
exactly. I thought about that. I was like, yeah. So yeah, 2 days before graduation day, my family was coming. Actually, it was the week before graduation day. My family was coming to town and everything, and then I got the call from the general manager at Real Salt Lake, and he said, "Hey," and he's known me since I think I was 17, because when I was in the academy, I was very fortunate enough to play with the reserve team. And while you're at the academy, they would fly you out. You'd go to school, you'd come back, you'd get a text, or even in during school, and be like, "Hey, you have to fly out to Chicago. There's a game." So then you just pack up as a young kid, just get on a plane, which was so, to me, it was so cool at the time. It was,
Oh, I'm sure.
but anyways, yeah, a week before I got the call and everything, and they sent over the paperwork and signed it, and then I'm graduating that next week. So there was a lot of emotions. It was very exciting, and couldn't have dreamt it any better.
It's such a big time in your life, all these things falling into place. And then,
Yeah.
so let's talk about your time with RSL. And then also, you were in MLS and also have done USL. So, what are the big differences, if you see any? What are the challenges? What is it like day to day, even for you?
I think going, because I've, there was also a league called the NASL. So it was MLS, NASL, and then USL. Now it's just MLS, USL, and then there's a few other under the USL. The difference is off the field or on the field.
How about both?
How about both? On the field, it's just the speed of play, of which, and the thought process before receiving a ball, or I think it's just a lot faster than most people think. Technically, it might not be a huge difference, and a lot of people think it is, but it really isn't. But the thought process and the speed of going from MLS to the USL, even now, and there's a kid on my team who's fairly young, and he's asked, "Oh, what's the difference?" And I tell him the exact same thing. I think knowing where you're gonna maybe play a pass before you receive it, they think about it like this: they scan the whole field before receiving the ball. Some people get the ball and then they start thinking of exactly what they need to do with the ball. So in the environment of the USL, the difference is a lot of the guys in the locker room are really like friends. They go out and grab food and hang out all the time. Even though some of these guys do have families, have kids and whatnot, like there's multiple guys on my team who are married and also have families. So off the field, there's just the professionalism, but not too much off the field.
We talk often, and you've got your puffy pants on. So for someone who isn't familiar with the sports world, uh, and many people think, oh, they've got it so easy. They just collect this paycheck. Well, tell me what time you wake up. Kind of tell me your time schedule.
So usually, like we train at, we have to be there at 10:30, and training starts at 11. So I get there at 9 a.m. And most of the time, training actually starts at 10. So, and you have to be there at 9:30. So I try to get there an hour before the time you're actually supposed to be there. So, or even an hour and 15 minutes. So I'll wake up, say at 7 o'clock, take my dog out, walk him, do all that, make my breakfast, and then head over there. I try to get there an hour and 15 before actually being there. So say 8:45. So then I have to do stem on my knees and hips for about 20 minutes. And then I get into my exercises, which take me about 45 to an hour. And a lot of some of my teammates are like, why do you get here so early? And I think a lot of them don't understand. In my past, since I've been playing, my goal is always to try to stay as healthy as possible. And that's the only way I know how. Like if I don't do certain things, I won't be able to. So then I get all my treatment in and exercises in. So then at 9, if training starts at 10, at 9:30, everyone starts getting in and whatnot. So then we'll have film maybe for 20 minutes. And then you have to do prehab. So more exercises, even though I'm warm by this point, but for some of the guys who are coming in, more exercises to get ready for training. So then you train for an hour and 30 minutes. And then after that, do my stretches, and then getting to the cold tub for 12 minutes. After the 12 minutes, go shower. And then I live kind of far from training, and it's maybe 45 minutes. So then I head back and take my dog out and kind of get in my puffy pants. After I take him outside, give him his treat, I get in the puffy pants for an hour and 30 minutes, and then I do the gun. Theragun, do you know what that is? Yeah, so I use that for about 30 minutes on my body, and then I kind of relax a bit, make dinner.
And what are puffy pants, if people didn't know?
So they're compression pants. So you put them on one by one, and they go all the way up to your waist, and they just compress your legs and then release over and over again to kind of just get the blood flow going, which helps you recover a lot faster. So then after that, I make dinner and then get back into my puffy pants while I'm eating, and then read a book and try to get some early sleep because I know how important that is, especially for athletes. So try to get some sleep and then wake up and do it all over again.
How do you keep yourself mentally strong and emotionally strong? And I mean, you're doing things for your body, and I know that you personally, it's important for you to keep your mindset right. What's that like? I mean, I think it's easy to, at least when I played, I would analyze everything after practice. You have so much extra time. How do you keep yourself healthy in that way?
One thing, healthy mentally, me and my teammates have a Bible study group. I think in my past 3 years, I was in St. Louis, and we had a Bible study group, just men who are trying to be better men for the Lord, and the way just come together and dive into a verse. And I think it gets very personal and vulnerable. And most men, especially athletes, they try to act macho and all that. And I think for us just meeting and getting to know each other and get on a vulnerable level with each other and kind of dive into the word, I think for me that's super helpful, because most of the time when you're around other men, it's very surface level conversations. And for me, that's I think that's been huge. And also getting into new hobbies. I think real estate for me has been huge. I love real estate and just investing. And I wish I learned this stuff in high school. But now, a lot of my time after training or whatever, I will go to the library or just stay here and just start looking up homes and reading up on rental property investing and all that. So
I
I think
think
that's what helps me, especially with all the free time, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you have so much free time." It goes by like this when you stay busy.
for you, you don't have, the family and kids, but what is, you also change teams. What's that like on you mentally? Is it, I know that some sports you can be called that day and you have to transfer.
It's definitely not easy. It's exhausting mentally. It's exhausting. I think there was a time in my career where I didn't. The season ended and my contract was run out, and I was at the end of my contract, and I didn't have a team for 4 months. And I think a lot of people during even quarantine, a lot of players retired because that time period where you constantly focused on soccer, 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 and a lot of people identify themselves as just as a soccer player rather than anything else. So it's tough. And then you add in moving, and then all these other things you have to pick up and leave, especially for some guys who have families. You got to get your stuff sorted. Where are we going? And you got to think about the finances. Where are we going to live? And sometimes, luckily, the teams help you out with a realtor if you're looking to buy a house or even to rent. But it's exhausting. It's not easy, and I think a lot of people don't understand that part because might see, oh, he's just moving to a new team, this and this and this. But you didn't. A lot of people don't see the backstory of how difficult that is mentally, because for anyone, if you've ever had a job, you want to sit there for 4 months and not have a team or have a job. And when people come to you and be like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what's going on? This and this, asking you questions constantly. And it's definitely not easy. And I think if you're not really ambitious, or I shouldn't use the word ambitious, but if you're not really focused or just wanting to get to your goal, I think a lot of people end up quitting or just quitting the job, a normal job. But for me, I just couldn't. I think believing in myself and believing in all the work that I've been putting in for those 4 months, even prior to the 4 months, I think kind of gave me the next opportunity to find another team, and which was nice, but it's also difficult. So if you go, maybe you're there for 2 years and then you have to move to a new team. And I think for me, the older I get, I don't want to get into I want to find a place where I can establish myself for a couple of years. And then maybe if a better opportunity or so comes along, then I take it. But I try now to stick around at one club for a certain period of time rather than moving, because I think moving is exhausting physically and mentally.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that's an important part to highlight. You
Yeah,
know, it's not all just glamour. Oh, it's a hard job. It
it
is a
is.
hard job.
And if you like think about the guys who have wives and kids, you have to pick up. One of our new guys came here. He had to pick up, leave his wife. Luckily, she works online, and most jobs are online now. But some people prior to this, they would move their wife. Their wife has to find a new job, and then they have to find new friends. And if it's hard for them to find new friends, who are they coming to? They're coming to you and saying, "Hey, this is difficult. This," and then you have to find schools for your kids and have to maybe move them out of the old school and put them in a new school. So there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of people think it's very easy, but I think mentally it's quite draining and tough. But it's luckily it's only for a certain period of time. Once you're settled in, I think it's a lot better. But if you're constantly doing it and moving teams, it's very difficult.
But what do you love about it? You're doing it for years. Like, it's one thing to love playing a sport, but I mean, for me, then when I went into college and was starting to play, I was like, okay, I don't really know what keeps you going. What keeps you bringing you back and signing contracts, and what do you love about it? Because it's still a job.
It's still a job, yeah. For an example, today we play in this beautiful stadium, and today the sun's been out. It's beautiful. It's nice. And after training, guys were just like hanging out in the goal. Like even our coach was saying, like, you guys are so lucky because like you look out, and sometimes I get in this phase where I'm just like looking out and being very thankful of what I'm able to do every day. And I was just looking out like guys after training, they're obviously exhausted, just enjoying the sun. And it's what it was 1 o'clock at this time. And I'm like, this is what we do for a job. How lucky are we to be able to just train like we did for an hour, 15 hour 30. And now we just have so much more free time. And I think I love that about it. And also just the way soccer makes me feel. I think growing up as a kid, soccer was it was a big getaway for me because obviously in our families, in our lives, there's a lot of things that go on. And I think for me, when I get stressed out, the only time I'm not stressed or worried about anything is when I'm on the soccer field. And it just brings me so much joy. You're around people you like, hopefully, in some teams, and some teams maybe not. But if you love the game, if you want to continue to get better, I think that's another thing that I love about it. I'm willing to learn and wanting to improve. And if I'm wanting to improve in anything, I'll enjoy it. So I think that's one part I love about it, and having a good group of guys around you to push you and challenge you. And I love being challenged. So another thing why I love soccer. So there's a lot of ups. I think there's a lot more ups than downs, hopefully in a lot of people's careers. But for me, there's been a lot more ups than downs for sure. So I just got to continue to be thankful for that. And obviously injuries come into play about it as well. And I've learned to embrace it's an up for me now when I am injured. I've learned to embrace it, and it teaches you so much about your body and how mentally strong can you be through a tough time where, excuse me, maybe you're off and you have to encourage your teammates to do their best. And obviously you want to be out there, but I've learned in a hard way to be happy in those tough times. So there's so much about it that I love and how lucky I am. So there's definitely a lot more ups than downs.
It's a good outlook to have. And even I think you're the first person who has mentioned injury and having, yeah, it's a Debbie Downer because obviously
Downer. Yeah, it's tough.
you want to be out there. But
Yeah.
I like that you have the perspective of, I mean, it also does give you an opportunity to be on the sideline. And
Yeah.
if you're usually on the field, then it gives you the chance to bond with those teammates and cheer them on and support each other. And I agree. I think you continue to grow and challenge yourself,
Yeah.
no
And I
matter
think,
what.
yeah, for sure. And I think one of the toughest, a lot of people don't, I think mentally, one of the hardest things for athletes is being injured because you're working so hard towards something and then all of a sudden you're injured and you have to sit on the sidelines while watching everybody else go about their job. And a lot of people don't really understand how difficult that is because you're all your life surrounds is your sport. So once you're not able to do it, but you have to be there and support and be the best teammate that you possibly can to other people, it's very tough. It's very tough. And depending on how long your injury is, a lot of people don't understand how draining it is as an athlete to be injured. But obviously, like you said, you learn a lot of new things to hang out with the people maybe out, not playing as many minutes or just I don't know. I think for me, it's always been now if I am injured or whatever, it just helps me learn more about my body and it allows me to research even more things like, okay, what can I do? What do I need to be taking or what kind of juices should I be will help inflammation and all this and this. So kind of goes hand in hand with with just learning new things and having a positive outlook on it.
My last question would be, I mean, you could say this to my younger self who wanted to be a professional soccer player, or to, to younger kids who are in high school or in college, hoping to take a next step and just wanting to be a professional athlete. What would your advice be?
I think
Tell me in that classroom.
I think I would now being at the age that I'm at, I think pinpointing exactly what it is that you want and never being afraid of asking people who are in that position on how they got there. Obviously, your journey will be completely different from theirs, but if you know exactly what you want, I think not being afraid to go after it and also just asking questions. A lot of people don't understand that there is luck. There's a lot of luck in this game. And I think the only way to make that luck is you have to put yourself in positions where you can get that luck. And I think just asking questions, never being afraid to ask questions, whether if it's in sports or academics or whatever it is, I think just like I would tell myself, my younger self, I think be very specific in what it is that you want, even though I thought I was, and I still believe that I am, but what are you also willing to do to get to that level? And a lot of people say, oh, I want to do it, but you don't understand how many sacrifices it actually takes to get to the point that you want to get to. And I think just letting myself know that, hey, I think even though you want to do A, B, C, and D, I think those things they're not part of your main goal. Yes, hanging out with friends is fun and all, but if you truly, truly want to get to where you want to be at, I think you got to take a little more sacrifices.
I agree. Yeah, sometimes we have to just do the grind.
Grind is not easy.
We gotta do the dirty work. We gotta go to class. You have to have certain grades to get to school and to get a scholarship, and you can be a phenomenal athlete or whatever, but you have to meet requirements.
And instead of saying I can't or I'm not a big fan of this, is using how. Like, how can I get to this point? Or what? Nowadays, I learned this just a couple months ago. Instead of just saying or being, oh, I can't do this, or there's no way that I can get to this point, but rather than how, because there's always a way. There's literally always a way, but you just have to cancel that can't and say how can I get to this point? So
it's a good, I'm gonna write that down.
No, I'm trying.
Well, thanks, Manny.
Of course, thank you.